For that, fresh from rooting out his own choice truffles of wildlife news is Kelvin Boot, and you've got troubling news from the Mediterranean, Kelvin.
Yes, Brett, shocking news from Cyprus, where according to the conservation organisation BirdLife Cyprus, hundreds of thousands of small birds have been trapped as they migrated across the island. Now, when I first received this news last week, the figure was put at about 866,000 songbirds. But it's still going on, and by the time I got to speak to Martin Helliker from BirdLife Cyprus, actually on the island, the estimate had gone past 1 million, so an astounding number of birds being caught.
And how did they arrive at those figures?
Well, they are estimates, but Martin told me that whilst they may not be absolutely exact, they're definitely of the right magnitude, definitely in the right ballpark. So he's confident that they're more or less correct. Now, the way they estimate is that they identify the places, if you like, the stations where the trapping takes place, which are pretty easily identifiable. Cleared areas where mist nets, which is what they use to catch the birds, can be put up, or roosting areas where bird lime is used. You know, this is that kind of glue when the birds alight on the branches to roost for the night. They actually get stuck, they get glued to it. And they also look for evidence that these areas were actually in use, looking for lots of feathers from the birds that have been caught. Now, for each of these sites, they estimate 20 birds per night, and then they extrapolate that up to the number of these trapping places and get this astounding total. Now, Martin actually thinks that because they can't get to all parts of the island, there are very closed-off areas, the figures are actually an underestimate.
And what does the Cyprus government say about this?
Well, they disagree with the estimates, maintaining that they are actually much lower. I managed to speak to the director of the Game Fund on Cyprus, Pantelis Hadjigerou. Now, he's the person that has the responsibility for management of game and conservation on the island, and he told me that he disagreed with the method of estimating, saying it was unscientific. There were far too many assumptions, and hence it was not reliable. So I asked him for his estimate, but he declined on the grounds that it was impossible to estimate the impacts of an illegal activity that was mostly carried out at night.
But he does agree that it's happening.
Absolutely. I mean, it is illegal. It's illegal on the island. It's illegal under European legislation as well. But he agreed that there was a problem. He said the authorities were working hard to find the people responsible. And according to BirdLife Cyprus, that has actually major connections with organised crime, so like with the drugs trade at the same time. Now, Mr. Hadjigerou also told me they'd made a significant number of arrests over the last few years, with convicted individuals being fined around 10,000 and up to 17,000 euros. And he also said, and this was the problem that he faces, that bird trapping had been a traditional pastime for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And they needed to educate the people as well as legislate. But Martin Helliker rejoins and says that, this is only scratching the surface, and it's the end point restaurants that should be being targeted. Now, if you think a dozen trapped birds can be sold as a delicacy for around 80 euros, the entire industry is estimated to be worth 15 million euros a year. A massive problem.
Yeah, very, very profitable as well, I'd imagine. Well, Kelvin, there's obviously a lot more we could discuss. In the next series of Saving Species, we'll be taking a longer and closer look at the problems migrating birds face at the hands of the bird trappers.